Hello and welcome to Great Companies, Great Leaders. I'm Christine Gannon, the CEO and founder of Brightworks Consulting. Super excited to have Frank Kitchen with us this morning on Great Companies, Great Leaders. And just a little bit about Frank before we get started. He's the Mindset Master Chef. He works with organizations around the world who want their people to break through mental barriers to cook up the professional dreams they hunger for. Frank teaches his proven recipe for transforming your professional aspirations into reality with professional associations, corporations, schools, colleges, universities, nonprofits, and civic groups around the world. When he isn't speaking, Frank practices what he teaches. He currently serves as a volunteer and board chair for the nonprofit organization Hustle Phoenix. Their team of staff and volunteers provide aspiring entrepreneurs in the underserved urban communities with resources that they need to start and operate thriving businesses. To invite Frank to work with your team, you can find him at frankkitchen.com and learn more about his keynote speeches, his coaching programs, and his books. Frank, welcome.
Hey, Christine, it's great to be back. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for coming back. Even though I told Frank before we recorded, I don't know if we can even talk. He hasn't seen Top Gun yet. So I know it's coming, but.
I'm working on it.
Okay. So you went from fired and broke to coaching people and becoming an amazing speaker, one of the top speakers in the world, no less, at which less than 1,000 people have earned this recognition. So how did you do that? How did you go from one end of the spectrum to the other?
Well, I tell people, or I don't like to tell, I like to share with people. But I share with people, it's our mindset. Where our mind goes, our body and our mouth will follow. So it's a case of, are you focusing on what you can't do, or are you focusing on what you can do? And for me, I quite simply share with everybody, it's like I had to get hungry. So it's actually, I'm not sure when this podcast is going to come out, but it's almost a 7-year anniversary on June 15th, 2015.
Wow.
Yeah, June 15, 2015, I was working for an employer and I'd been talking about this professional speaking dream, but I said, you know what, I'm going to wait for the perfect time. So I was making sure I was still doing a good job with my employer. And then I was moonlighting as a speaker on the side. So I went in for a meeting at a Panera Bread company, no less. My last name's Kitchen. I go to a restaurant and I meet with my supervisor and quite simply says, this isn't working. We're going to have to go in a new direction. And they gave me my walking papers. Now, it's one thing to be let go, at a restaurant at a lunch meeting, and you're thinking that maybe you're going to get a promotion. I was about to go to one of their territories. I thought I was going to meet with our clients. But the other part was it was Father's Day weekend and my wife was 6.5 months pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
So now I have to go back and tell her, and at this time, this is the 4th job I've lost in the last 5 years, not because of performance, but because of some type of other circumstance. The company downsized. I was the last guy in, so I'm the first guy out, legal issues. So I'm like, what do I say? So it's Father's Day weekend. My wife is pregnant. And to make it even worse, we're going to go see her parents that weekend to celebrate Father's Day. So I got to walk into my father-in-law's house and say, hey, guess what? I have no job. Your 3rd grandchild's on the way. I want to be a professional speaker. I love you. I mean, that was how it started. I mean, that's the crazy story.
That is incredible.
Yeah. But the thing was, as we were driving from Arizona to New Mexico, I had time to reflect because you're in the car. Like, what are we going to do? How do I take care of my family? Because my son was 2, got a daughter on the way. What are we going to do? And I recognized, and this is for all of our listeners right now, is it wasn't anybody else. The American way's become, let's blame somebody else versus to self-reflect and recognize, oh, I got to take some personal responsibility. I've got this dream I hungered for, saying I wanted to be a speaker, but I thought about it, I talked about it, but I didn't put in the work. So quite simply, I burnt my dream. That's
really important. That is such an important aspect. Burning the dream versus earning it, right?
Exactly. I'm like, I explain to people when I'm on stage, it's almost a case of, you talk about how you can cook the perfect marshmallow at a bonfire and you talk about it and you're like, I'm going to go do this. And then when you start to work on it, you get distracted. You're not looking at it and it catches in the flames and it's on fire. That was my dream for the speaking. And I recognized during this piece, my problem was I put myself around the wrong people and in the wrong environments. And it was crazy because for years I had booked speakers, I had booked performers, I'd given advice, I had talked to students. I worked at a college on how to transform their professional aspirations to reality, but I didn't follow any of my rules. I wasn't following my advice. So when I got to New Mexico, I sat down with my father-in-law and talked to my wife, and we recognized that the problem wasn't the world, the problem was me. And then my wife said the scariest words that any wife can say to you. I'd signed up for a speaker showcase that weekend in New Mexico, and she goes, "Take my dad with you."
Oh my goodness.
So that's a scary piece right there, where it's like, okay, here's this person, you look up to, but he'd been a marketing guy, he'd been an executive and all this. And like, oh, I got to take him with me. He's never seen me speak. He's known me for years, but he's never seen me speak. So I go to this showcase and I focus on him. I had a couple hundred people in the room, but I'm just focused on him, watching every head nod and seeing if he's taking mental notes, what's going on. And once the speech is over, then he said some of the scariest words that I've ever heard, which were, "Let's talk about this at home." So now, I don't know anybody about that, but when you have somebody you consider a parent figure and they go, "Let's talk about this at home," you're like, "Oh, what do I do?" So I did with anybody. I went back to like my teenage years. There are several speakers who were there who I knew. I was like, "Hey, would you like to come back home to dinner with me?"
Smart. Good strategy.
Smart, right. So I was like, well, maybe he'll be nicer if they're there. But when we got back to his house, we sit in his backyard. He goes, "You know what? I like what I saw. This is what you're born to do. What can I do to support you?" And with the other speakers there, he actually drilled us for about 3 to 4 hours to study what the business was about. And I tell people quite simply, that was like my first mastermind of putting like-minded people around to say, okay, here's what you have to do. It's not going to be easy. He's like, "Hey, this is not going to be easy, but if you put the work into it," he's like, "you can make this happen." So at that point, he goes, "Hey, I know it's going to be tough, so we'll support you. Here's, we'll help you guys with some extra money. We'll help, gift cards, whatever you need to do to help take care of the kids, put the work in." So a year later, come back to his house and, I'm a year into the business. I've been full-time now. And he gave me a gift, which was a watch. And he goes, "Frank, this is just something to celebrate how proud I am of you. You put the work in." And the funny part is my wife is there and my sister-in-law is there. Like, "Well, where's ours?" Like, Dad's never done that for us. But that was the big piece of my mindset got, if you want to say let loose or set free, or guess since you just watched Top Gun, the afterburners got kicked in.
Yes.
Because, I can talk about the first Top Gun, but it's like he pulled out and they go, "You got to get back into this." And once he got back into it and the mindset changed, he was set free. So for me, once I had that backing of my wife, and I had, I always had her backing, but the backing of my father-in-law and then some other speakers said, "You've got this," then things changed. So as this process goes, I put the full effort into it. I realized I hadn't put in the full effort. I hadn't put myself in the right environment. So I started to join professional associations, getting around other professionals who are succeeding at professional speaking. Then, I got around the right people. People were like, "Okay, we know marketing and business and finance to help me out." Like, "Hey, this is a business," the nonprofit that I sit on the board for now. I went to those classes and volunteered. And it's funny when you're around other hungry people, it's contagious. So I'm around these aspiring entrepreneurs who are working 2 jobs to try to launch their business. And they've got kids and, one guy drove from Tucson, to come to the classes. I'm like, oh, what I didn't have is this hunger. And and when you're hungry for something, you focus. I mean, like, what's your favorite food, Christine?
Pasta.
Pasta. Where do you want that pasta from?
Capri, Italy.
Capri, Italy. Okay. So obviously we're not going to be able to jump on a plane right now, but is there anywhere in the Phoenix area that just makes the best Capri pasta?
Yes. So shout out to Fabio on Fire.
Okay. So Fabio on Fire. So it's a Friday night. You and your husband are feeling that you want this pasta from Fabio, and you're hungry, but you got to drive all the way over for it. And you're going to drive by all the different Italian places that are here in Phoenix.
Right.
But you're so focused on it. You're so hungry for it. You avoid the distractions and you do everything. You make this commitment. You make this mental commitment to where we're going there. You save up the money. You get it all ready to go there. Well, our professional careers are the same. And for everybody listening to this, I'm not trying to make people into professional speakers, but the idea is whatever our professional aspiration is, we have to get hungry for it. And the funny thing is, when we're hungry for something, if you and I go to that restaurant, I might say, "I want, some eggplant Parmesan." And you're like, "Okay." So I express that to you, what I want, what I'm hungry for. And you will probably find it on the menu before I do, and you'll help me find it. But you'll tell me what you want. I'm like, "Oh, Capri pasta." So the server will come over and is like, "What do you want?" She wants Capri pasta. And it comes in. So the case is you also have to be willing to share it with the world, what you want, because more people are willing to help you with it and to take it away. And that's the sad part in this professional, mindset or this professional culture we've created is when we go out and try to express it to our supervisors or our leaders, what we want, sometimes they say we're too ambitious or they think we're coming for their job versus we should be, honing or, helping cultivate that hunger, saying, hey, you know what? We've got a future leader. We got somebody who's going to move up. We should go ahead and start to develop this person so we don't have to hire from outside. Let's hire from within. Let's promote people.
Yes.
And that's what I learned through my process, because I know you said you're going to let me kind of talk because I'm a speaker and I talk. But as I followed what we're sharing right now, as of this March 2022, I got contacted by the National Speakers Association. And we have this thing that's called Certified Speaking Professional. So it's almost like putting doctor in front of your name. And with this process, you have to be a member of the National Speakers Association or one of the global speaking federations around the world. So it's an association for professional speakers. And you have to be a member of it. But they have this designation, which is the highest earned designation any professional speaker can earn. And in order to earn it within a 10-year window at a 5-year minimum, you have to at least speak 250 times paid. You have to make over $50,000 in pure speaking for 5 out of the 10 years. You have to have your peers, Hall of Fame speakers and other CSPs watch your videos and vet your videos. You have to submit your business plan. You have to have your clients fill out surveys and provide feedback on your ethics and your business practices. So you have to, it's not an easy process. So for this year, 10 people made it in. I'm one of the 10. So quite simply.
Congrats.
Yes, thank you. Following what I'm sharing right now, I started speaking full-time, quote, 7 years ago this June, but that started in the middle of the year. So technically it's the next year. It takes you 5 years minimum to get it. Even during a pandemic, trying to earn this process, I earned it in 6 years. So when you really focus on something that you really want and you surround yourself with the right people, you put yourself in the right environment and you have the right mindset, a growth mindset, or I could call it a fresh mindset, amazing things will happen.
This recipe that you've created, first and foremost, let's just talk about you blazing the trail. Okay. So you didn't open a book. I know you had a couple of mentors around you, but no one gave you this recipe. You developed this as you went the hard way. You learned the hard way.
Yep.
You designed it, you developed it. You've literally just laid this out in this podcast in less than 10 minutes. But a couple things that I pulled of the many that you shared. One, surrounding yourself with the right people. I mean, you have to have the hunger, right? But surrounding yourself with the right people. You talked about being in an organization where leaders may feel threatened by your ambition, or they may feel threatened by your dreams and where you want to go. So maybe you're not surrounded by the right people, right? Because you might not ever earn it. It might get burned along the way. And so might your hunger, because people aren't interested in supporting that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like going to a restaurant and you say, I like this. And people around you go, well, I don't like that. That's crazy. I mean, it's a point of like, you go, it's like, you want to specialize somebody. So let's say you have a dairy allergy. Like, okay, for me, I can't do dairy. So I'll get a pizza without cheese on it. And everybody will look at me like, oh, that's wrong. Okay, guess what? What type of impact is that going to have on my mindset?
Right.
Versus again, other people go, oh, well, Frank doesn't do dairy. Hey, have you considered this? And they start to offer options for me. And I'm like, ooh, and they're helping me out. So are we surrounding ourselves with those types of people I like to call taste testers in our lives? And when I say taste testers, it's a small group of people, but think about it. When we're cooking in our kitchen, there's only a certain amount of people that we trust to sample what we're cooking and to give us feedback on how we can get the best results.
Right.
So I had to choose who was around me. And it's not people who have a position or title or who are rich or super successful. It's just people who think of something, they not only talk about it, but they actually put the work in to live it. I mean, that's how we remember. We remember by how we live and the actions that we put in versus the people who just talk about it or think about it. And I love sharing on stage. I go, the dream we only talk about becomes a fantasy. Mm-hmm. The dream we work to live becomes a reality. And that's what we all want. We want reality. So we want to put ourselves around people who are living the reality that they've been thinking about. Right. And are willing to share, quote, their own personal recipe with us to, produce the reality that we want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So important to contributing to your mindset and keeping that mindset strong. There's an element of resiliency in there too, in terms of if you did have the naysayers around you telling you, why are you getting that pizza like that? Why are you taking that route? Why are you not going back into corporate America and starting your own company? Why would you do this?
Get a real job. I mean, that's what people tell me.
Right. There's never going to be a good time. You just have to, that's where your mindset, right, comes back into play. Like, this is my dream, not your dream, my dream. And I'm going to follow this path.
Yeah. And like you said, I'm going to follow this path, but it's something that we can teach and replicate, because you said I didn't have a book, but quite simply there's people that we aspire to be like. And right now we're one click away from connecting with all those people. I mean, you and I met through one click, through LinkedIn and through
we did.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the case is, these people that we aspire to be like, I mean, we can click and say, hey, I would love to interview you. I mean, I tell people it's called like the $5 masterclass. You can say, hey, I would love to meet with you, because all the times people say, I want to pick your brain. Pick your brain is the worst thing to say. You can say, hey, you know what? I really aspire to be like you. I look up to you. So you play on people's vanity. But he goes like, would you be willing to sit down with me over a cup of coffee? I will pay for it. So you can send them a $5 Starbucks card through email.
Right.
It's like, I would love to interview you to find out how you got to where you were. So quite simply, it's the same thing as picking the brain, but just even the mindset shift of how we communicate or express how we want to get information. If you tell somebody, like, I'd love to, interview you for about 30 minutes, and I'm willing to offer something of value to you, gift card for a cup of coffee, gift card to Amazon. I mean, hey, like the one person I was talking with the other day, she specializes in TikTok. It's like, I'll show you how to monetize TikTok. I don't use it. So it's like, that's not something of value to me, but she offered value.
Right.
If we offer value, but that helps us speed up. I mean, that's the process that we can do, is find other successful people in the career field that you're looking to go for, reach out to them and ask them to share what their successes are. But more importantly, I always love to ask people, what were your failures? What tripped you up? That speeds up the process even more. It's not about the successes. What did you mess up on? Okay, Frank, guess what? You need to get a CPA, because guess what? You don't want to pay the taxes. Hey, you need to invest this first before you invest in that. This is where I messed up.
Right.
It blows your mind, where there's groups who will just pour into you and share all the information because other people want to see you successful. Like I said, back to the whole case of ordering on the menu. What do you want? You express it. If you're willing to express in front of people, more people will help you than steal it or take it away or hold you down.
Absolutely. Okay, so you have all of this. I'm putting this out there. I don't know if this is true. Tell me. You have all of this coming out in a new course, Spice Up Your Speaking Business. So it's for professionals who want to be compensated for their public speaking, or just those that are in the workplace that want to be a better public speaker. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I've got two courses. So one is actually out right now. So if people go to my website, frankkitchen.com, and just click on online courses, there's one called Spice Up Your Public Speaking. So when I say spice up, what does spice do? Spice is something you add to food to make it non-bland, to bring out flavor, to make it at its best. So for people who are in position, especially if you're looking to move up the corporate ladder, looking to start your own business, you're going to have to speak in public, and you have to do it confidently. So spice up your speaking. As a quiet, shy kid growing up, it's about a 7 to 8 hour course with all the content in there. It teaches you how to be confident as a public speaker, virtually or in person. So there's that course there. So it's only $97. Pretty simple to go through and go and do. But then I've got some people who love public speaking so much, and they've mastered the art of public speaking. They go, hey, for my company, for my career, I've been invited to come and speak at this Rotary Club or this, Chamber of Commerce or this association I'm a part of. They're asking me to go and speak. I did it. And now more people are doing it, and they want to compensate me for it. So the Spice Up Your Speaking business is the business side of speaking. How do we share our passion, our purpose, our dream, our expertise, and get compensated for it? And that course actually launches on the day I got fired. So in June 15th, that's how I celebrate. Every year, June 15th is when I get fired. So we'll do something fun to celebrate that I got fired and pushed into the speaking career. And then June 27th is actually the date that I call it my I Live Fresh date. That's the date where I went ahead and said, you know what, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to start this company, Frank Kitchen Enterprises. So I always will release something. So I've got a new book coming out on the 27th. It's a revision of my book called Fresh from the Kitchen. So Spice Up Your Speaking Business is the business side of public speaking. What can we do? But there's a lot of business tips in there, because speaking is just like any other business. So that's going to be tips there. That comes out on the 15th. So look on my website for that. And then on the 27th, I've got a book where it's Fresh from the Kitchen, 44 lessons to cook up the professional dreams you hunger for. So it's lessons of what I learned to go from 9 to 5 to looking at professional aspirations of being a business owner and professional speaker.
Frank, congratulations on all your success. I know you've been with us once before, and we talked a lot we talk differently. Actually, we had a whole different conversation. So I love this conversation today. I love where you're headed, where you've been. Congrats on all your success, on the award, on the book coming out, on these courses, the new course that's coming out, and just your resiliency to keep putting the next foot forward, to be that role model for people, to show them what's possible.
It is. And like for anybody listening, and I was talking to a business owner last night where he's about to have his second daughter. So he's got a 1-year-old going to soon be 2. He's got a new one on the way here in July. And we said there's a certain fire that's sparked under you when you become a parent.
Yes.
Everybody listening to this, when we focus on just ourselves, we don't put as much effort into it. But when we focus on what that personal or professional dream, whose life it can transform outside of ourselves, there's a certain fire. So for anybody listening, if you've got kids, you've got a spouse, a significant other, maybe you're trying to take care of your parents. When you focus on that, you will put the work in because you don't want to let them down. It's weird. You know, we don't have a problem with, quote, letting ourselves down. But when we realize others are relying on us, so whether it be your customers, whether it be your clients, whether it be a family member, whether it be a friend, when you recognize that you can have a powerful or positive impact on them, it's amazing how much you will produce. So that's what I thought is when you said the resiliency is going, okay, I got kids to take care of. Or like I told my father-in-law, his name is David. David's like, Frank, you had resiliency. Why'd you put so much effort in when COVID hit? Because COVID, I lost all my work in 2 days. And then the last 2 years have been the most successful in my business. So I was like, oh, I learned about this. He goes, what happened? I'm going like, if I can talk to my father-in-law when I got fired, like COVID's no issue. But I told him the big one was the mindset of, I don't want to live with you. And he goes, what? I go, love you to death, but we don't want to live with you. So let me put some effort in to be able to take care of my family so we don't have to put the pressure on in-laws because we couldn't take care of ourselves. So that fire there sparked this energy to go. So now at this point, I told people I have, and I'll say it on your podcast again, I half-assed it for way too long. So now I can't make the time up, but I can put the effort in now to make the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 30 years as successful as possible. And all it takes is it's a choice that I make with my mind. Where my mind goes, my body and my mouth will follow.
Awesome. Awesome recommendations, advice, solid, easy to follow. Get the book. I can't wait to read the book. Honestly, I know it's an updated version. I'm going to wait for the updated version. And your new course that's coming out, the other course that's coming out. I mean, we know public speaking is people's number one biggest fear, right? So for $97, you can fix that.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Yeah. So just come on, jump in. And what I'll do is, I know you always do show notes. So anytime I jump on podcasts like this, what we'll do is we will offer 10% off for any of the listeners. So I'll send you that code. So what we can do is we'll just make it BC Consulting, something like that. I'll put in like a little promo code. They can type it in. They'll get 10% off and life will be good.
Awesome. Frank, thanks so much for being with us. You can find Frank at frankkitchen.com. Get the book, get the class. Just want to take a minute and thank our sponsor, Best Company AZ, the top employer branding firm in Arizona. So thank you for your sponsorship, and thank you everyone for listening today.
Brightworks Consulting hosts this podcast and YouTube channel to spotlight the leadership around the world that is changing lives. Brightworks offers a myriad of consulting services in the public and private sector, to include diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions for any size company. You can find us at www.brightworksconsulting.com. We're honored to have Best Companies AZ as a presenting sponsor for this podcast. Best Companies AZ is your number one source for regional employer branding. You can find them at www.bestcompaniesaz.com.